Hello. He or she achieves success, who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has enjoyed the trust of pure people, the respect of intelligent people, and the love of little children, who has filled his or her niche and accomplished his or her task, who has never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty or failed to express it, who has left the world better than he or she found it, whether an improved poppy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who has looked for the best in others and given them the best he or she had, whose life was an inspiration, whose memory a benediction. Those are the words of Bessie Anderson Stanley, and I had the profoundly tragic duty, at the same time as incredible honour, of reading this as part of a eulogy I gave at a funeral for a 22-year-old wonderful teacher called Lisa, who died suddenly with a brain hemorrhage. I also wrote it as part of a speech given by his best friend at the funeral of 16-year-old Will, who died of cancer. An inspirational young man I still hold among the very best of people I have known. Both of these remarkable people lived life to the full in their short time. It's not about quantity, it's about quality, and they both completely lived up to this reading. The famous playwright, author and intellectual Oscar Wilde once said, "To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that's all." What do you think? Is this true of people you know? Will it be true of your life? Another famous quote I've used before from Henri Thoreau is, "Most people live lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in their heart." Again, if this is true, how absolutely tragic. I believe that we live more than just this life now on earth, but I also believe that this is not a dress rehearsal. It's the only life we get in this age, and how we use it and what we do not only matters enormously, it also determines our own futures and impacts on the lives and futures of those around us. So make the most of it. We have no idea what tomorrow will bring, or even if it will come at all. And with that in mind, my last quote is from one of my top 5 favourite films called Dead Poets Society. Carpe diem, which means seize the day, make the most of your life. The key scene in the film is where a teacher, played by Robin Williams, takes his students to look at old photos of sports teams, now long dead. The students realise that they don't know anything about the people behind the faces in the photos, except that they're gone. Fertilising daffodils, as the teacher says. As the students lean in to look more closely at the faces in the photos, the teacher plants a life-changing idea into their minds when he whispers, "Carpe, carpe, carpe diem. Seize the day. Make your lives extraordinary." I don't know you well enough, or even at all, to have the authority to offer you any advice, but I would encourage you so very strongly to think about this. What is your life about? What can you do with the short time you have here on earth? And what follows? And does it matter? Please let me read to you from the book of Revelation in the Bible. "I looked again. I saw a huge crowd, too huge to count. Everyone was there, all nations and tribes, all races and languages, and they were standing, dressed in white robes and waving palm branches, standing before the throne and the Lamb, and heartily singing, 'Salvation to our God on his throne, salvation to the Lamb. All who were standing around the throne, angels, elders, animals, fell on their faces before the throne and worshipped God, singing, "Oh yes, the blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving, the honour and power and strength to our God forever and ever and ever." Oh yes. Just then, one of the elders addressed me. "Who are these dressed in white robes, and where did they come from?" Taken aback, I said, "Oh, sir, I have no idea, but you must know." Then he told me, "These are those who come from the great tribulation, and they've washed their robes, scrubbed them clean in the blood of the Lamb. That's why they're standing before God's throne. They serve him day and night in his temple. The one on the throne will pitch his tent there for them. No more hunger, no more thirst, no more scorching heat. The Lamb on the throne will shepherd them, will lead them to spring waters of life, and God will wipe every last tear from their eyes." Wow. If this is true, and I sincerely believe it is, this is available to you and to me. Eternity in bliss. This was written by a chap called John, probably the same John who was Jesus' closest disciple. Many years after Jesus' resurrection, John was transported to heaven and then sent back to tell us of what was to come. I recommend it as an excellent and very important read, but it can be scary and confusing. And there are many ways people have tried to interpret what John wrote. But the core message is clear. Those who trust in Jesus, who stand firm against evil, will spend all of time everlasting with God. As I said 2 weeks ago, I beg of you guys, as the future, be true to what you believe. Be sincere in your love and your behaviour. And as the future Christian church, be witnesses to God's presence in this sad old world. And worship God in truth as well, in authentic faith that honestly recognises and works against injustice and wrong, and that lives out the Christian claim that all things work for good under God's sovereign hand.